And now I present April to talk about microenergy credits.
Thank you, Kevin. Well, first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for creating this wonderful evening for us tonight. Personally, having watched all of these talks today, I feel enriched. I'm so excited about this community, and I'm so excited to see such a great turnout here. I am new to Seattle myself, from Washington, D.C. recently, and I'm just very enthusiastic to start making connections with all of you. All right, so microenergy credits. First of all, my work in microfinance started when I moved to Bangladesh in 1996 and helped the Grameen Bank in Bangladesh start their clean energy business. And basically, what you probably already know about microfinance is that it's a program where poor people, typically women, are able to take a small loan to start a business, and gradually they get income and are able to pull themselves out of poverty. So what we did at the Grameen Bank was we started marketing a portfolio of clean energy products to these clients, including solar lighting systems, biogas digesters, and efficient cook stoves. And it turned out to be a very successful program. The clients were able to use the lighting to be able to work later at night, increase their income. Their children were able to learn to read, and also they had less smoke in the home because the efficient cook stoves were just a much healthier product. And they ended up selling over 240,000 of these clean energy systems in Bangladesh alone. And in fact, there's over 2.5 billion people that don't have access to clean energy globally, and many of these are microfinance clients. They find themselves in a cycle of energy poverty where they are faced with recurring expenses. So, for example, these women in southern India might be spending 30% of their income on the worst forms of fuel like kerosene, charcoal, or wood. And this fuel is even more expensive because it causes respiratory disease. So they're constantly sick. They can't work as much as they would otherwise. They have to spend a lot of money on cold medicines. There are burns, fires, waterborne disease because they can't boil their water. Oftentimes it's the women and girls that are required to go out looking and foraging for the wood, and they do that instead of going to school. And then not only that, but the children are trying to learn to read using kerosene lighting sources. It's really not bright enough, and it perpetuates a cycle of illiteracy. So we saw this, and we saw that, microfinance, looking at the Grameen example, microfinance can actually be a really good channel to bring clean energy to these types of clients. And in fact, there are over 12,000 microfinance institutions globally, reaching nearly 1 billion people now. Meanwhile, we realized that the carbon markets, which, as you know, started when the Kyoto Protocol went into effect in 2005, and have now grown to be $120 billion per year. The carbon markets had grown into existence in this enormous size. We thought, well, why don't we use revenues from the carbon markets to replicate Grameen's renewable energy business at other microfinance banks globally? And that's what microenergy credits does. And this program has turned out to be very popular, and so microenergy credits, as a company, we have now signed contracts with 7 microfinance banks globally. We're working in Mongolia, Honduras, India, Sri Lanka, and Uganda. So to tell you a little bit about how it works, when a microfinance bank makes a loan to a client for a clean energy system like a solar lighting system, that client stops using kerosene. And in this case, we have Josephine Kamagisha. She is a pharmacy owner in Uganda, and she purchased a solar light so that she could keep her store open a little bit later at night. And when she did that, microenergy credits purchased the carbon offset from her, and that revenue went to a microfinance bank in Uganda, Finca Uganda in this case, and they used it for their program, so they could expand their program and reach more micro entrepreneurs with clean energy. So specifically what we do is we offer a carbon purchase agreement. We provide technical assistance to the microfinance banks to help them scale up their program. We provide a mobile phone-based carbon monitoring system so that the microfinance loan officers can report to us the status of the energy investment and ensure that it continues to be used over time. And they do that using their cell phone. It goes directly to our web database. And then we also provide a geocoded web database that's standardized across microfinance institutions and across countries of all of the individual clean energy investments. And what this means is that when you purchase a carbon offset from microenergy credits, you know exactly who you helped and how it helped them. So typically in the carbon markets, right now are the funding, less than 1% of that funding is going to renewable energy in developing countries. Most of those carbon projects are for large power plants or manufacturing or chemicals companies. But the difference is that with microenergy credits, we're actually affecting this change using methods to help individual micro-entrepreneurs. So, for example, these students in Uganda, they study at a private school. It's a very poor area, but it's a private boarding school. The owner is a micro-entrepreneur, and the owner took a micro-loan for a solar lighting system. And when the parents in the region found out that that school had lighting, more parents sent their students there. So that school actually got higher attendance, and the teachers of the school noticed that the students that were boarding there and had access to light at night to study were actually performing much better, not surprisingly, than their peers who were staying at home and didn't have lighting in the household. And so what microenergy credits is able to do then is track the geocoded location of every single clean energy investment. And not only that, we can give you a picture of that client, and we can also tell you the date on which the energy system was last monitored. And we monitor all of our clean energy systems 4 times per year. And the carbon revenues are used for a number of really critical catalytic purposes. So, for example, the revenues can be used to teach the micro-entrepreneurs about the clean energy alternatives to what they're currently doing. And this is an example in Uganda where they had an energy week, and many of the clients had never even heard of solar lighting before, and this is how they learned about it. The carbon revenues can also be used to train the microfinance bank loan officers in clean energy. And this is an example from Mongolia where these loan officers are learning about an insulation for the yurts. And with this insulation, their clients can actually cut their energy consumption, their coal consumption, by 50%. So they save money. And additionally, they're learning about these efficient cook stoves, which again can cut their fuel costs by 50% again. The carbon revenues are also used to train and hire local maintenance technicians. So in this case, in Bangladesh, Gurmeen Shakti has trained these women entrepreneurs to become the local technicians, and that really improves the sustainability of the energy systems. And they're also the revenues are also used to support the suppliers that are bringing the energy products into the marketplace. So many of these suppliers are actually very small businesses, and they would not have the capital they needed or the training they needed to actually enter these markets of typically poor and dispersed people unless there was an intermediary to support them. And then last of all, the carbon revenues are used to lower the interest and principal costs to the clients. And what's next for microenergy credits? Well, We expect to be announcing new partnerships by the end of the year, probably at least 4 new partnerships with microfinance banks. We have received interest from over 60 microfinance institutions globally that have expressed interest in starting clean energy programs. And another thing that we're really excited to announce, and which you are the first to hear about, we are announcing it now, is we are launching a new website so that individuals will actually be able to purchase a carbon offset and help a micro-entrepreneur get access to clean energy on our website. And we expect to be launching that in the next month. So, thank you.
No, wait, I have an iPhone, so like everyone else here, I'm like, what's the website? Actually, what is that? Well, we have a link to your website, right?
Yes.
Okay, so people that go to... I'll pull the NPR trick. Like, NPR never tells you a URL. It's like, please go to npr.org. So please go to bloomseattle.com.